The and in the Trinidad and Tobago is under a little more scrutiny. I saw a meme last week during the whole Michael B. Jordan and the Juve rum controversy where he had a symbol for his Juve rum with something that resembled Trinidad and something that resembled Tobago. And there was a third symbol somewhere in between there. And someone made the comment and said that they think that could be the and. That's the and in the Trinidad and Tobago. And that and is what is under a bit more scrutiny at the beginning of this week with two bills before our parliament. Both of them geared towards Tobago and giving Tobago some more autonomy and some more authority in making their own decisions on how their country is governed. And well, their country and how their island is governed. Because as it stands, at least so far, up until now, we are still one country. It's Trinidad and Tobago. Now, bear in mind, for those who do not know, there are many people who live in Trinidad and Tobago that do not know also that there is some differing history between Trinidad and Tobago. We were not always paired together as a joint country. Tobago had a whole different history to Trinidad. In fact, Tobago's history, right up until probably around the 1900s, late 1800s, was way more interesting than Trinidad's. Tobago was the island of prize. Tobago was named after tobacco. The colonizers found that the shape of Tobago, which is something like this, if you don't know, it's that shape right there, Tobago. The shape of Tobago, the colonizers found that shape resembled the rolled tobacco that the natives smoked. So Tobago looked like a little native blunt. And basically Tobago is a long time version of a blunt. An old version of a blunt. Tobago is named after an old tobacco blunt. That was Tobago, and they had a much longer history of having colonies there and plantations there. And Tobago was fought after, I believe, the book, which one of the books was it? I believe it was the book Robinson Crusoe was written based on Tobago. So for quite some time, Tobago was actually more primary than Trinidad, until eventually, for convenience sake, we were paired together. And as luck would have it, Trinidad had the oil, and we know the effect oil has on an economy and the effect oil has on a country, and that would have been seen in the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad would be the rich brother now and Tobago would be the poorer one, at least in some view. And that relationship, that imbalance, as some see it as, so personally I don't agree that there's necessarily that imbalance. I don't feel it, but then again, I'm not a Tobagonian, so maybe that would be something that I wouldn't be in a position to speak on or in a position to really feel. As we saw back with the bit of controversy that was made when the comedian made the jokes about Tobago, I made a video about that. Hopefully I'll get around to placing a link to that video somewhere in this video, so you'd be able to click on that and see it if you haven't yet. There was quite a bit of furor when a Trinidadian comedian made some jokes at the expense of Tobago, and that was a bit of the background behind it, the disrespect that some Tobagonians already feel from Trinidad. So that's some of the background, and out of that, Tobago is seeking to have some more autonomy in how they rule and govern that island, how they rule and govern their region, their portion. And that was what these bills were about. The bills obviously have controversy, with some of the opposing parties in Tobago not agreeing to it at all. But then the ruling party in Tobago is also the ruling party in Trinidad. So they are in agreement for the most part. But then the opposing party in Trinidad is opposing to the bill there. And let's see if we could get through and see exactly what's going on. PDP on autonomy bills, not the will of Tobago. Progressive Democratic Patriots Deputy Political Leader Farley Augustine has made it clear the party is not in favour of the Joint Select Committee's final report to the Parliament on the Tobago autonomy bills. Debate on the motion to adopt the JSC's report on the Constitution Amendment, Tobago Self-Government Bill 2020, that's a mouthful, And the Tobago Island Administration Bill 2021 began in the House of Representatives on Monday. It culminated in 3 public consultations, 2 of which were held with key political stakeholders in Tobago on April 30th and May 1st. The third was held in Trinidad on May 3rd. The bills require a 3/5 majority for passage, meaning they must get the opposition UNC's support. Leader of Government Business Camille Robinson Regis, who chaired the JSC, which reviewed the bills, opened the debate on the motion. So the bill must have opposition support. And that creates, that to me, that's the true intention behind democracy. That's the intention behind our democratic process, that we would like it that different people representing different parts, different regions of the country, different groupings in the country, they must now have a discussion and come to some kind of compromise and agreement in order to make decisions that would affect everyone. That's ideally what you want in a country. But the problem is when you have the kind of political friction that we do have, and to be fair, I like to always point out when I say that I am not one of those that subscribes to the notion like Trinidad is somehow worse than the rest of the world when it comes to political intrigue and political mischief. We are just about par to me. You look around and it's just about what goes on everywhere. When it comes to politics, things get really sticky because it's power that is involved. So in this case, they need the opposition's support in order to get this bill passed, and they're not getting it. Augustine, who listened to Robinson Regis' contribution and that of several other speakers, said the arguments being put forward on either side were predictable and did not reflect the wishes of Tobagonians. So far, the debate has been predictable and consistent with what we have been up against with the JSC, but the takeaway point for Tobago is that it is evident that there is a clear unwillingness to give Tobago what Tobago desires, he told Newsday. The Speyside Lansformy Palatuve representative accused the government and opposition of supporting flawed bills. Everyone agrees that the GSC's final report has significant flaws and in some ways reflects an unwillingness to listen to the people of Tobago. To demonstrate his point, Augustine referred to a recent press release, which he said stated that the bills are not perfect. So if they know they are not perfect and they are flawed, why not let us fix it before they carry it to the parliament? But they seem to insist on carrying to the parliament as is. So let the chips fall where they may at this point. He went on to say that they do not have any agreement with the Trinidad opposition, the UNC, and they're just letting the chips fall as they may because they're already upset that the bill is imperfect as it is, and they know it's imperfect, and they would like perfection, so they do not approve of the idea of bringing this imperfect bill before the parliament. He wasn't the only one from the PDP, which is the opposing party in Tobago. Bear in mind, this PDP party, the Progressive Democratic Patriots, they currently hold the same amount of seats in Tobago as PNM. Now, those are different from our general election seats, and to get very in-depth into it is to probably do an entire other video. Who knows, maybe I'll do that sometime. But the general election is, Tobago has 2 seats in the general election, and that goes towards the election electing the government for the entire country of Trinidad and Tobago. But Tobago itself has, as it were, a local government election, a Tobago House of Assembly election. This is the body that governs Tobago, and they have 12 seats in that body, and as it stands, those 12 seats are divided evenly 6-6 between the PNM and the PDP. So the PDP has some power in Tobago. They have some say on how things go and what would happen. And the PDP is led by none other than the infamous, maybe a suitable word, Watson Duke. He's the leader of the labor union in charge of the public sector, and they're one of the largest, most powerful unions in the country, and he is quite a loud character in possibly all senses of the word loud. I spoke about him a bit on another video I did also. That's another point to that. Again, I hope I put that link somewhere here, where I spoke about populism and the effects on how populism works. He is a prime example of a populist leader, and he's the leader of the PDP in Tobago. PDP political leader Watson Duke, who who also watched the debate, claimed Trinidad has always viewed Tobago as inferior. They're saying take a little thing, it's better than what we had before. He said in a video on his Facebook page, showing a book titled Laws of Tobago 1884. Duke said Tobago has been independent in the past and is not asking for anything extraordinary. This stupidness about Rowley saying he will give Tobago lawmaking powers instead of using your authority to further Tobago. What are you doing? You are trying to keep Tobago in subjugation. That's directly down the lines of Mr. Watson Duke, if you are familiar with the character. And he has also said before that what he has intention for Tobago is, and he said it clearly, in fact he made a point to highlight that he is saying exactly this, that what he wants for Tobago is secession. He wants Tobago to become an independent country separate from Trinidad. Now, I am not sure how many Tobagonians have that like view, but that's what Mr. Watson Duke has as his intention. I'm curious, if you're a Tobagonian and you're watching this video, please reply to me and tell me, is that sentiment something that is common among Tobagonians? Because as far as I could tell, it is not something that is common. I don't think that Tobago doesn't want to be part of Trinidad and Tobago, but I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. PNM Tobago Council, meanwhile, issued a statement late Monday accusing the UNC and PDP of disrespecting Tobagonians by not supporting the legislation. The two parties that met before the start of the debate on the Constitution Amendment and Tobago Island Administration Bill are now ensuring that Tobagonians are denied the right to self-determination, it said. The Tobago Council said the UNC, by its refusal to support the bill, has in effect denied Tobago receipt of an enhanced fiscal package from as early as October 2021 and the opportunities for us to make laws for Tobago. That was one of the key parts of this bill. The bill would have provided Tobago with larger maritime borders under their own independent control, and also the power to make some of their own laws where they would have direct access to the president who accedes to the laws in Trinidad. So they would do the debate on their laws in their own House of Assembly, which would function in a sort as their parliament, or it would be their legislative body, at least if these bills pass. That's the intention, so they can make their own unique laws for their own Tobagonians and send these laws for the president to pass. And that's one of the provisions of the bill, that the PNM leader in Tobago says that these two parties, by disagreeing with the bill, are denying Tobago a unique opportunity. And that shows an interesting point, something that is always unique when I think about democracies and how democracies are meant to work. So the PDP says that this bill disrespects Tobago and it isn't what the Tobagonians want. But the PNM, who are also in Tobago, say that by denying the bill, it disrespects Tobagonians and this bill is what Tobagonians want. And the unique thing is the actual Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, the man in charge of both islands, he's actually a Tobagonian by birth. So when we're talking about what the people want and what is the people's decision, what the people have decided that they want to put forward, then who people are we choosing to go with? And in this case, the decision that could be made due to this may be something that would be totally opposite from what another person may want. So what if there are some Tobagonians who would like to remain in the current structure as we have it, or they may want some more of their own self-determination, but they do not want to leave Tobago? And what if there are enough people on the Watson Duke PDP side that want to totally secede, and they succeed in doing that and dragging these people with them? That's a unique part of it. And in my opinion, if enough people in Tobago decide they're living in Tobago, enough people living and residing in this region decide that we do not want this group to control us, then who is anyone to deny them that decision? Like what exactly would you do if a group of people decide that? Would you send in the police or the army to occupy the region and say, well, no, you have to remain as a part of under us? No, that's not really possible. So it really is up to them to decide what they want. But again, as I said, that decision becomes a very difficult one to actually get to consensus and agreement on. as displayed clearly when the opposition UNC walked out of the parliament during the discussion or during the debate on these two bills. On Tuesday, they walked out of the parliament. They walked out on the basis of saying that the government disobeyed some standing orders and went against their own standing orders, and the UNC, as a matter of keeping up with the will of the people, could not stand with this. Kamla, government breached standing orders twice. Opposition leader Kamla Prasad-Bissessar has accused the government of two major breaches of the standing order. She issued a statement following the UNC's walkout of parliament today. Now, it's quite a statement. You could feel free to read it if you'd so like. And as usual, I'll post the links to these articles in the description. But the basic idea of it was that by asking for an extension in time, they breached one of the standing orders. And also by asking for that extension, they were effectively denying the opposition the right to reply to the Prime Minister. And they accused him of being a coward for not wanting people to reply to him. I'm sure that he's going to have a response to that and as to why he would have wanted more time. And I'm not sure if I agree that they should have a problem with wanting more time. Listen, y'all are being paid to go to that building and discuss things. I don't have to tune into Parliament and look at it for all 6 hours. If the discussion needs to go on for 6 hours, if people are willing to discuss things for 6 hours and during that time it's 6 hours of country business, then you should stay and listen to the 6 hours of discussion. That's your job. That's your literal job description. Your job description is to debate country business in the parliament. So if it lasts another hour, stay and debate it, please. I don't agree on the time argument. It could seem like that argument is making an excuse for a decision that they really wanted to do anyway. And they may have some reason for wanting what they want in Tobago, because as it stands, the UNC does not field candidates in Tobago. As I was speaking about with our general election, with the election for the government for the entire country, Tobago does not field candidates for the 2 Tobago seats. They never send anyone to go up for the 2 Tobago seats. What generally happens is occasionally they may form a partnership with a Tobagonian party, and the Tobagonian party would put up 2 seats, and the UNC may give some funding to that party, and they would, if they do win as they won with the partnership government, they can all come together and run as a coalition government. So the UNC doesn't field candidates for Tobago. So if Tobago does in fact secede, the 2 seats that are stand to be lost out of the whole Trinidad and Tobago pool would be lost from the PNM side, basically. As it stands, PNM has 22 seats and UNC has 19, I think. Fact check me on that if I'm wrong. If PNM were to lose these 2, they would be down to 20 and the UNC would remain at 19, and that would make their job at winning the election all the much easier. Now, that may be a very cynical view of why the UNC may or may not want what they want in Tobago, and I am not necessarily saying that that is the truth, but those are just some realities that do exist. One of the reasons that the UNC proposes that they do allow for more autonomy from Tobago was expressed by one of their MPs, Mr. Anil Ram. Let Tobago's laws reflect its culture. Again, I'll post the link to this article also. The general idea behind what he was saying and what the UNC's position that they put forward in this matter is that they propose that Tobago, being that they have their own culture, they be allowed the authority to make their own laws depending on their own culture. And I totally agree with that. As it stands, I do not find that it should be that a government many miles away should be making laws, at least specific laws, for the day-to-day running of a smaller community. And in that light, I am of the view that when it comes to communities on a whole, I remember I heard our ruling government, the PNM, speak about local government reform, and they always speak about it when election time comes around, but very few people actually get it done. And give more power to local governments. I'm in full agreement with that. Allow it to be that the person in charge of what happens in and around my community is someone that is living in and around my community. The people that determine what happens in an area should be people from in an area, not a central government many miles away. They cannot possibly know the needs and the intricacies and the nuances of what may be needed in a specific area. So, not saying that we do not have a need and a role for a central government, but the need and the role for the central government, I think, has expanded way too far as it stands. Central governments possibly need to decrease their power and give more role to the local governing bodies. I agree with that. What I do not agree with is Tobago seceding. I like my Tobago. I like it to be that I am from a dual island state, that I'm not sure if some people like this or if they dislike this, but I like the idea that we could have, as it were, a work island and a relaxed island. I'm not sure if that's a negative stereotype from some, but that's the way I see it, and I like it. If it's selfish of me to want it to remain that, well, I guess I'm selfish in that sense. So, tell me what you think, drop a comment, don't forget to click that like button if you haven't done that also, and subscribe too if you aren't subscribed yet, and stay tuned for the next video tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Feel the music, rising with the time.